All right, left, right, out. See, I just recorded this whole show and I had another glitch. So I'm redoing it. So we're going to start with the story that I was talking last. And that was the GoFundMe situation. GoFundMe had seized the funds, roughly $8 million worth, that were intended for the Canadian trucker convoy. And they told everybody that they were going to give it to a charity of their choice, or not their choice, of their choosing, GoFundMe's choosing. And then recently they capitulated. Well, there's a number of topics we can delve into on that, whether GoFundMe was pressured by a government entity, particularly the Canadian government, and then also if that just doesn't line politically with what the Canadian truckers are doing. I think they're not mutually exclusive. They're probably both happening, but um, so GoFundMe just came out and said that they would refund them. Here's why I think that's not from upswell of pressure from us or any particular person. What it is if you were listening to any of these individuals that were talking about this, they're like, hey, do not go and ask for the refund. Just go to your bank and get a chargeback, which would cost them, if you think about $8 million, however many donors are, how tens of millions of dollars more than likely. I don't even know what the number would be, but it'd be a lot. It'd be a lot. So I think they're actually capitulating to that rather than the political pressure. And so anyway, that's what I was talking about until my feed froze. But the markets are up. I mean, the Dow's up solidly over 0.5%. Then the SP's up close to 0.5%. The VIX is getting crushed. Gold, silver, both up. Here's oil pulled back a little bit, but it's been solidly in the 90s now. I mean, I'm seeing in my gas pumps here. Things are not looking good on that end. Now, here's the thing that worries me. Here's the alarm bell that we need to be looking for is the 10-year yields at 191. 191.6 right now. It's been over 192. Once we get to a certain point, that's going to really affect capital allocation in the market. And then we're going to see there's people calling now for 7 rate hikes or that the Fed will do so. I don't think that's even remotely possible. I think they, like I said, 1.5 tops. Tops. Even if they can even get close to that, even if they can get half of that, I doubt it. We'll see what happens after they get the first one or two done, and see what the market does there, digest it. Unless they're going to be in there somehow have their prime dealers like hold the market up. I don't know how it's gonna. I know there should be a massive correction, I'd imagine. But while you look at that, I'm still hedged for continuation of the correction, and we'll see what happens. But let's go on. So the other thing that was interesting that came out in the news was the fact that the state, I believe it was the State Department, or there's a gentleman that was speaking for them, and he has ties to the intelligence organizations, of course, being that level, saying that Russia was going to, or had crisis actors and people there were in the vicinity of the battlefield there, or proposed battlefield. They that were going to stage events or false flags, and to me, it was like the pot calling the kettle black. To me, it seems like they're setting up their own false flag in order to drag Russia into this. They need it, and it seems pretty telling that this is happening all while President Biden's poll numbers are in the doghouse. And usually, this war, mongering starts happening when there's some other thing that you should be looking at, or you're paying attention to, and they want you to rally people, rally support somehow. So here we go, another war. Let's get that going. So in that regard, if we know that our country has utilized false flags in a number of instances to get us dragged into different wars or different actions of a sense, and some of them have failed. The one in Syria, in particular, the one that I remember recently that's failed, and we know that that was a false flag, and we know that that was the media drummed that up, and it was conducted. I mean, we can get into that some other time, but that's one where the American people actually stood up. So hopefully, with this reporter questioning, even they didn't even present evidence, questioning him, that's the beginning of at least some people questioning this narrative. And if you look in the news outside, like the BBC, but elsewhere in the world, it's contrary to what the situation that we are getting told this Ukraine and Russia thing is. Yeah, there's conflict, especially on the Eastern Front in Crimea and was it Donetsk and Donbass or whatever, the Eastern Front, pretty much. Yeah, there's Russian separatists over there raising hell, and Crimea has been taken over. But that's, strategic reasons probably as well. But there's a Belarusian, I believe, they're talking about one day having an alliance with all three of them. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we're not getting told over here. It's crazy, but you can look at that yourself. Go search various other worldly news organizations. Not to say that they're all. I mean, they all have their own element of bias, but just use a discerning mind and read something else outside of the alphabet networks and the New York Times. What else is there? Oh, the Rogan incident, the Rogan stuff. Of course, somebody compiled the whole montage of him saying the N word out of context. Now, I've listened to him since he was sponsored. I said sponsored by the Fleshlight, and I've heard him use the term, but it's usually quoting other comedians or titles of people's works, and then sometimes just talking about the nature of the word and how it's used. He's never used it in a racist term. In fact, the guy is anything but racist. I mean, the guy, if you've listened to him at all, he talks about loving people just in general, and has talked about how certain communities are disenfranchised in a very and sometimes a very leftist way, which a lot of us would disagree with. But he is anything but a racist. So this is just what I call the beachhead. Like, they already established the beachhead when they were going after him over supposed disinformation, and then now this is them trying to solidify that and get him canceled. But we'll see. He's been offered by Rumble $100 million to transfer platforms, and that's if Spotify decides they don't want anything to do with them. But we'll see. A lot of money being thrown around there, and there's a lot on the line for all parties, especially Spotify. I have a feeling this is make it or break it for them. What they choose to do with Rogan will ultimately either lead them to success or the ultimate downfall of that platform. But anyway, that's pretty much it for the day. There's some other COVID stuff, which I'm putting this on YouTube, so we will not cover that just because we don't know what we can and cannot talk about on that platform. But anyway, I will talk to you later. Peace. Be careful in the markets, I'll say that. Watch the 10-year, watch the debt markets, and also watch oil.